and your title is Director of Friends United Meeting Belize. So tell us just briefly, what is the nature of your work? What are your responsibilities?
Well, FUM Belize consists of Belize City Friends Center, Belize Friends Church, and Belize Friends School.
Okay.
So we have these three entities working together in what's called the Southside neighborhood of Belize City. So it's the southern part of Belize City where that's where we work.
Okay, great. So what's the nature of the ministry, and what's the work that Belize Ministries shares there in Belize City? So
about 25 years ago, a woman named Sadie Vernon saw a need for a remedial school for boys. Mm-hmm. So in Belize City, to get to high school, you have to pass a big test called PSE, and sometimes kids haven't been able to do that. So they come to our school, and we help them learn to read or learn to add or multiply, whatever they need to do, mm-hmm. Until they are able to sit for the PSE. And so that is our first ministry and the one that takes up the majority of our time and resources. Okay. About 4 years ago, it was discerned that there was a need for a church, a Quaker church. Mm-hmm. And so we, that actually started because someone from the community called the school and said, is there a Quaker meeting? Oh, wow. And the interim director at the time, Dale Graves, he said, well, if you come, there will be. So that's how our church started. And then our community center started a couple of years later when one of the members of our church had a problem with one of her employees. He had a negative interaction with the police, which escalated to unusual proportions. And so she came to our pastor, Oscar Mbali from Kenya, and she said, so this thing happened, so what can we do about it? And so they started the, what was it called? The Community Safety Forum. So Oscar and Miriam, this church member, started the Community Safety Forum, mm-hmm. and they began addressing maybe community education needs, community awareness. They interacted with youth and the police. So that's how our community center started. Okay. So in each of these steps, FUM has responded to the needs and prompting of the neighborhood itself. And I really love that.
So there's a real opportunity for the Quaker witness, it sounds like, to really thrive and flourish in Belize City because of its foundation and the work with Friends United Meeting Belize work. So if a child comes to the Belize school, the Belize Friends School, and starts from the beginning to the time that they leave, what is your hope for that child?
Well, I hope that our students are able to access the resources that they need to pass the PSE and go to the school of their choice after they graduate. Some of them go to technical schools, some of them go to high schools. More than the actual academic knowledge that they find at our school, I hope that they are learning practices which will enable them to be successful as they go through their next educational stage and on into their life. And I also, and not being a teacher, I'm not a teacher, my personal deepest hope for each of our students is that they will come to an understanding of their value, that they are important, that they matter, that they are good creations of God.
Wow, that's great. I can tell that really means a lot to you. So on the flip side of that, which may be a harder question to think about, what would be the options for these young people if the school did not exist?
There are a couple of programs in the city that do some tutoring, okay, and some, particularly with literacy and numeracy. Okay. There is not another school for kids like our students, and there is nowhere that I have been able to find, and I have looked because it's always great to work together with other organizations, but I cannot find another school that cares for its students as holistically as we do. So we consider their physical needs, their educational needs, mental health, their spiritual needs. We care for the whole student while they're with us. And I can't find another place like that in Belize City.
And I know, just having been down there a couple times, the Belize City, the country of Belize, but Belize City faces some significant challenges in terms of its own crime, in terms of its own poverty. Can you name at least 2 or 3 challenges that you know these young people face within their own communities?
Well, the neighborhood that we work in really struggles with poverty and everything that entails. So there's a lot of violence and mental health problems and just general it's a depressed area. And then along with that comes gang violence, gang involvement. And some of our students experience active recruitment from gangs, particularly if they have brothers or cousins involved in gangs, which many of our students do.
Really?
So those are some of the significant hurdles that our students are overcoming and working against, and part of why they come to our school, because they want something different for their lives. They're trying to interrupt the trajectory that their life has set them on.
Which is interesting because from what I hear, from what you're telling me, is that if the school or something like it is not there to provide a sense of community and bonding for these young people, there are other not so good options available that will do that for them. So the school really does provide that kind of opportunity to bond with a healthy community and learn some healthy practices.
It does.
Good.
Not just the school, also our church.
Well, talk a little bit about that. That was my next question is, how does the Belize Friends meeting fit into this whole bigger picture?
Our meeting, or our church, is most of our members are actually youth, mostly boys, although hopefully we'll have some girls soon. But they're mostly boys from the ages of 15 to 17.
Okay.
And there's about 10 to 13 of them. And they come every single week. And they participate when we have community center activities, and they come when we have programs. And some of those youth are former students of the school. A lot of them, though, are friends or cousins of those former students. And so our church and our school really serve different populations of students. And that enables them to be able to stay connected with each other because they all go to different schools. So it provides a place for these youth to stay in community with other kids that are working towards a bright future and not kind of going with the flow of the way their life could be.
So finances are obviously very important. The support is very important for you all. It pays the operational expenses, it pays salaries, and those things we totally understand are necessary in making sure that the school is open for business, so to speak. Do you have a story or a child, if you will, that you can talk about that their life was changed, their life was made better through this financial investment into the school?
Yeah, so I have been here for one school year. So although I know there are students from past years, I can tell you about one that I've watched change.
Yeah.
And actually, I mean, there are several. So one is a student who is really quiet. And so he often covers his face, physically covers his face throughout the day. And he has trouble responding always or interacting with classmates and with the teacher. And so I had a concern about this student. So I spoke with his teacher from last year, who was doing some observation of the class, and she said, "Oh no, he's like a different person. Last year, he wouldn't look up, he wouldn't talk to anyone, he was always alone, This year, I see him talking. He's answering questions.
Wow.
He's interacting with students on breaks. Like, he comes and talks to people during lunch.
Wow.
Like, we saw this immense opening up of this student. And oh, I just loved that so much. And then there is another student who came to our school. He has some special needs, and he has different styles of learning than many students have. And so when he arrived at our school, he could not identify letters. I think he was 12 or 13 when he got to our school. And so he's been going through our program. He's in his second year right now, I think, still in the reading portion of our program. And a few months ago, during our morning devotions, Oscar was asking one of the students to read a verse, which he does every morning. So a student was struggling with one of the words, and this student said the answer. He was helping this other student read the sentence, and he did it again and again. And we all just kind of turned and looked at him. And then at the end of that verse, Oscar asked this student to read the whole verse again so that we could hear one go. And he read it on his own with clear voice. And we all just kind of stood there for a minute, and then we started clapping and cheering.
No kidding.
Because this student that we were told we shouldn't even try read an entire verse on his own.
That's great.
And that is a real testament to the work that our teachers do and that our community does. And and the hard work that this student put into it. I love it.
And what I love about that story is how you help to see, number one, the collaboration between the Friends meeting and the school. That there's this ongoing life that just flows one from the other through being in worship, reading in worship, and learning in school, and how that adds to both entities. How you as a community are as much just simply doing encouragement and building up confidence and esteem, which is so important for life skills. It's so important for success in this world. And how, again, holistically, you're ministering to these children, not just numbers and math and science and information, but there is this formation of their character and their development. So I just think it's amazing. That's just so powerful. So let's dream a little bit. Let's dream that you have everything you need investment-wise, financially. The operational bills are being paid. I know we're dreaming here, but yet there's more that you want to do in your heart. There's more that you see here that could be done than what's already being done. What is that?
Well, we have gone through significant changes over the past 2 or 3 years. We've moved buildings and added girls and things like that. And so we are trying really hard to get, it's kind of boring, but getting paperwork done to reflect all the changes that we've done is so vitally important. And watching my team coalesce and grow is really important. Like, that is what I'm hoping for the next year, so that we can start to increase our enrollment and the quality of what we can offer to our students.
Okay.
And that is one thing that I'm really focused on for this year personally. And another thing is that it's really hard work that our students are doing. And it's not fun. It is really hard to be 15 years old and working to learn to read. And it's really hard to be a new reader and working on material that assumes that you've been reading well for about 6 years. It's really hard, and it's frustrating sometimes. And I would like to see us be able to provide our students with more fun, honestly, like with more community building activities to intersperse with their academic building activities. I would really like to see that for our students.
So,
and for our
go ahead.
And for our church, I would like to see us be able to offer more resources for girls and women to be able to feel engaged and welcome in our church. That's something that I would really like to see for our church in the coming future.
So you guys really are bearing witness to these Quaker testimonies of equality and these Quaker testimonies of the whole person. There is that of God in everyone, and using these outreaches of a faith community, a church, and education to bring that to bear on each of them. And what I really heard you saying too was there's so much you want to do, and part of it is trying to get the infrastructure in place. So getting that infrastructure, you're able to, say, in the next 3 to 5 years, do even more, that you have that stable framework that will enable you to do that. Is that right?
Yeah, we really need to get our framework in place. I like that word for it.
So Nikki, think with me just for a few moments. If there is one thing that you could change, and it would change everything for you in terms of the future, what would that be?
If I were to change one thing, it would be that our financial paradigm would not rest on emergency funding pushes, but that it would be steady and consistent every month.
And what would that free you up to do, as well as the staff to do, if you had that consistent investment?
Oh, I could focus on getting the framework in place with the government. I haven't been able to do that at all this year because so much of my time has been spent just trying to make sure we can pay our staff.
Wow. Okay. So you really would be freed up to do a lot of the work that you need to be doing on the ground if you knew that you had that sense of financial stability coming in on a regular basis.
It would be great.
If Friends United Meeting Belize Ministry pulled out tomorrow, what would Belize City be missing by their absence? What would they no longer be receiving?
What we bring to this community is love and care. The social worker that comes to work with our students that need some special care told me that she is so grateful for us because we sincerely love our students and we are willing to do whatever we need to do to accompany our students through the journey that they're each on.
Wow.
And she doesn't see that from any of the other places that she works.
Wow, that's huge.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And so to get that feedback from her tells me that our community would be missing a ministry that passionately loves the youth of this neighborhood and is willing to do whatever we have to do.